The stage was set for a high-stakes political debate aired live on national television. The topic was government accountability, and tensions were already running high. Pam Bondi, known for her sharp rhetoric and unwavering stance, was dominating the conversation with pointed accusations against the judiciary. Suddenly, Judge Edward Chen, a respected and calm figure with years of experience on the bench, was invited to respond. The audience was eager to see if he could counter Bondi's aggressive style. Pam leaned forward, her tone cutting. "Judge Chen, with all due respect, your so-called impartiality seems more like a cover for political bias. How can the public trust a judiciary that bends the rules for its own agenda?" Judge Edward Chen took a slow, measured breath before responding, his voice calm but firm, cutting through the charged atmosphere. "Ms. Bondi, I appreciate your passion, but let me clarify something important. The role of a judge is not to advance a political agenda or to cater to public opinion. It is to uphold the law fairly and impartially, regardless of who is pleased or displeased by the outcome." He paused, looking directly into the camera, ensuring every viewer heard him clearly. "You accuse the judiciary of bending the rules, but what you call bending is often the result of carefully applying constitutional principles that protect the rights of all citizens, even those you might disagree with politically. That's not bias. That's justice." The room fell silent. Even Bondi's confident expression wavered as Chen continued, "If we allowed courts to be swayed by political winds, what would stop the erosion of our democracy? The checks and balances exist precisely to prevent that, something I fear is often overlooked in political grandstanding." With a subtle but undeniable authority, Chen ended, "So before you question the integrity of the judiciary, I encourage you, and the public, to remember the foundation of our legal system: fairness, reason, and above all, respect for the rule of law." The live audience, both in the studio and at home, was visibly stunned. Pam Bondi, momentarily speechless, searched for a response but found none that could match the clarity and gravity of Judge Chen's words. The debate, which had been spiraling into heated accusations, shifted tone as viewers absorbed the weight of his message. Social media exploded almost instantly. Clips of Judge Chen's comeback were shared widely, praised by commentators and citizens alike for cutting through the noise with reason and respect. Finally, someone calling out political grandstanding for what it is, tweeted one prominent political analyst. "Judge Chen just reminded us what true public service looks like," wrote another. Behind the scenes, political insiders began reassessing their approaches. The power of measured, principled discourse over divisive rhetoric became clear, if only for a moment. Pam Bondi later released a statement acknowledging the judge's point about the importance of the judiciary's independence. Though their political differences remained, many viewed this as a rare moment of humility and respect crossing party lines. Judge Chen, meanwhile, continued his work quietly but resolutely. His live TV moment became a defining instance in his career, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful response isn't volume or aggression, it's integrity and truth spoken with conviction. As the nation grappled with increasing polarization, this exchange offered a brief but vital lesson: democracy depends not on shouting the loudest, but on listening, understanding, and respecting the rule of law. In the days that followed the televised debate, the impact of Judge Edward Chen's words continued to resonate far beyond the confines of the studio. News outlets dissected the exchange, editorial boards praised the judge's poised and principled defense of judicial independence, and grassroots organizations saw an opportunity to reignite conversations about the importance of checks and balances in government. At town halls across the country, citizens debated not just the policies at hand, but the very role of the judiciary in American democracy. Community leaders cited Chen's remarks as a reminder that political battles must not undermine the foundational systems that protect everyone's rights, regardless of party affiliation. Meanwhile, political strategists and campaign advisors found themselves revisiting their messaging strategies. The spectacle of the fiery but ultimately ineffective attacks by Bondi contrasted sharply with Chen's composed and authoritative tone. "This is a teachable moment," noted one veteran consultant. "Voters are tired of shouting matches, they want leadership that respects the institutions meant to safeguard their freedoms." Within the judiciary itself, Judge Chen's moment was celebrated as a reaffirmation of the oath judges take, to serve justice without fear or favor. Some courts began holding forums to engage more openly with the public, hoping to build trust and transparency. Pam Bondi, recognizing the public response, started emphasizing more measured critiques in her future appearances, aware that fiery rhetoric alone was no longer sufficient to sway an increasingly discerning electorate. Though she remained a staunch defender of her views, even she acknowledged that the conversation had shifted toward a higher standard of discourse. As the political climate remained tense, the episode between Judge Chen and Pam Bondi became a symbol of what could still be achieved through respect, reason, and courage in public life. It sparked hope among many that democracy, while fragile, could endure, and even thrive, when its pillars were defended not just in courtrooms, but in the court of public opinion. In the weeks after the debate, Judge Edward Chen found himself at the center of an unexpected public spotlight. Interviews, panel discussions, and invitations to speak at universities and legal conferences poured in. Yet, despite the newfound attention, Chen remained grounded, consistently emphasizing the principle that had defined his career: the impartiality of the judiciary is the cornerstone of democracy. In an exclusive interview with a leading political journal, Chen reflected on his upbringing. Growing up in a family that valued fairness and education, I learned early on that the law isn't about winning arguments, it's about serving justice, he said. The moment on live TV was not about silencing anyone, but about reminding us all why an independent judiciary matters. It's a message I hope continues to inspire. Meanwhile, political circles buzzed with debate about the wider ramifications of the exchange. Some conservative commentators criticized Chen's comments as overly idealistic, arguing that political considerations inevitably influence judicial decisions. Others, from across the political spectrum, acknowledged the necessity of maintaining a judiciary free from partisan pressure to protect the rule of law. Pam Bondi's career also saw a subtle shift. While she remained a vocal political figure, her approach in public forums became more nuanced. In a recent op-ed, she wrote, "The judiciary plays a critical role in our government, and while I will continue to hold it accountable, it is essential to do so with respect and understanding of its constitutional duties." Political scientists noted that this exchange underscored a growing public appetite for civility and substance over spectacle. The Chen Bondi moment reflects a deeper yearning for integrity in governance, said Dr. Maria Hernandez, a professor of political ethics. It showed voters that true leadership often means listening and explaining, not just shouting louder. For the judiciary, the moment was a catalyst. Courts across the country started initiatives to increase transparency and public engagement, hoping to build bridges of trust. Judge Chen himself became an advocate for judicial education, frequently speaking to young people about the importance of civic responsibility and the delicate balance that sustains democracy. As the dust settled, the legacy of that live TV moment became clear. In an era of divisive politics, the power of reasoned discourse and respect for democratic institutions can still shine through, offering hope for a future where dialogue, not discord, leads the way. Months after the debate, the exchange between Judge Edward Chen and Pam Bondi continued to influence conversations about the health of American democracy. It had become more than a fleeting moment of television drama. It was a touchstone for how public figures might engage with one another amid increasing political polarization. Educational institutions began incorporating the debate clip into curricula for law, political science, and ethics classes. Professors used the moment to illustrate the essential role of the judiciary and the importance of respectful political dialogue. Students debated the nuances of judicial independence and explored the tensions between political accountability and legal impartiality. At a prominent national conference on democracy and governance, Judge Chen delivered a keynote speech titled, "The Rule of Law in a Divided Nation." His message echoed the principles he had voiced on live TV but expanded to address challenges facing institutions in a rapidly changing political landscape. He spoke of the need for resilience in democratic structures and the responsibility of every citizen to uphold them. Meanwhile, political commentators and media analysts tracked a subtle shift in political discourse. Candidates and elected officials increasingly echoed calls for civility and respect in debates, partly inspired by the widely shared and praised interaction between Chen and Bondi. While partisan disagreements remained fierce, there was a new recognition that undermining institutions could have dangerous long-term consequences. Pam Bondi, reflecting on the moment months later during a televised interview, said, "That debate was a wake-up call. It reminded me, and I believe many others, that attacking institutions isn't the same as seeking reform. We must respect the roles these bodies play while pushing for accountability." This realization prompted some lawmakers to propose bipartisan measures aimed at strengthening judicial independence and transparency. Though the path forward was complex and fraught with political obstacles, the conversation sparked by that single debate was undeniably a catalyst for renewed focus on governance reform. On a personal level, Judge Chen's reputation as a voice of reason and integrity grew. He was invited to mentor young legal professionals and participated in initiatives encouraging public trust in the justice system. His humility and steadfast commitment to principle earned admiration from colleagues and citizens alike. The legacy of the debate became a symbol of hope, that even in an era defined by division and rancor, a single moment of honesty and respect could inspire change. It proved that leadership grounded in truth and civility could cut through noise, fostering a deeper understanding of democracy's fragile, yet enduring, foundations. As the nation moved forward, the echoes of Judge Chen's epic comeback on live TV remained a beacon, a reminder that while politics will always be contentious, the commitment to justice and respect must never be compromised. As the year progressed, the reverberations of Judge Edward Chen's live TV rebuttal to Pam Bondi continued to influence not only political dialogue but also the broader civic culture across the United States. What began as a televised debate moment transformed into a catalyst for a larger national conversation about trust, transparency, and the fragile balance between branches of government. In state legislatures and Congress, bipartisan groups referenced the debate as a reminder that institutions must be protected from the rising tide of partisanship. Lawmakers proposed bills aimed at increasing judicial transparency, such as clearer reporting requirements on judicial decisions and enhanced public access to court proceedings. Though these initiatives faced significant challenges, the debate had undoubtedly shifted the political calculus, making attacks on judicial impartiality less politically expedient. Public opinion polls reflected a subtle but meaningful change. A growing majority of Americans expressed renewed respect for the judiciary and a deeper understanding of its vital role in safeguarding rights and freedoms. Civic organizations seized on this momentum, launching nationwide campaigns focused on judicial education and the importance of civic engagement. Media outlets began rethinking their approach to political coverage. Instead of amplifying divisive soundbites, many programs sought to highlight substantive discussions on governance and institutional integrity. This trend was partly inspired by the positive public reaction to Judge Chen's composed and principled stance, which many viewed as a model for responsible public discourse. Pam Bondi, while maintaining her conservative principles, increasingly engaged in more measured public commentary, often emphasizing the importance of judicial independence alongside the need for accountability. In interviews and speeches, she acknowledged that constructive criticism of institutions must be balanced with respect and an understanding of their foundational role. Judge Chen, now regarded as a symbol of judicial integrity, continued to work quietly behind the scenes, mentoring the next generation of judges and lawyers. He collaborated with civic groups to create educational resources aimed at demystifying the legal system and encouraging active citizenship. His influence extended beyond the courtroom, shaping a renewed appreciation for the rule of law. The Chen Bondi moment also inspired a new wave of civic engagement among younger generations. University debates, mock trials, and community forums often featured the exchange as a case study in how respect and reasoned argumentation can bridge ideological divides. It sparked conversations about the responsibilities of citizens, media, and political leaders in preserving democratic values. Looking ahead, political analysts viewed the event as a pivotal example of how individual moments can help steer the course of national discourse. While divisions and challenges remained, the debate between Judge Chen and Pam Bondi offered a blueprint for how public figures might reclaim civility and prioritize institutional respect, even in contentious times. In a world where soundbites often overshadow substance, the legacy of Judge Edward Chen's epic comeback served as a powerful reminder: democracy thrives not on the loudest voice, but on the commitment of its people, and its institutions, to fairness, truth, and mutual respect. As months turned into years, the impact of Judge Edward Chen's epic comeback to Pam Bondi on live television transcended the immediate political sphere, seeping into the cultural fabric of the nation. What initially seemed like a fleeting moment of televised debate had become a defining symbol of reasoned discourse and the defense of democratic principles in an era of deep division. Educational systems nationwide embraced the incident as a case study. Law schools incorporated it into courses on judicial ethics and constitutional law, while high schools used the exchange to teach civics and critical thinking. Teachers praised the debate for demonstrating how calm, fact-based reasoning could effectively counter inflammatory rhetoric, inspiring students to value thoughtful engagement over partisan shouting matches. In the media world, a subtle but significant shift took root. Newsrooms that had long prioritized sensationalism began to experiment with programming that fostered more nuanced discussions on governance, law, and policy. Journalists frequently cited Judge Chen's words as a benchmark for respectful political communication, reminding both pundits and politicians of the power of integrity over invective. Community organizations and nonprofits launched initiatives promoting judicial literacy, encouraging citizens to understand not just what judges do, but why their independence is essential for protecting rights and maintaining balance among government branches. Public forums, town halls, and online platforms featured the Chen Bondi debate prominently, encouraging dialogue that transcended partisan lines. Politically, the episode became a touchstone in discussions about reform and institutional trust. Although partisan tensions persisted, many politicians across the spectrum began to echo themes of respect for democratic institutions, recognizing that the electorate increasingly demanded it. Some states enacted measures to increase transparency in judicial appointments and decision-making processes, fueled in part by the awareness raised through the debate. Pam Bondi herself evolved as a public figure in the wake of the exchange. Though she remained outspoken, her rhetoric softened, reflecting an understanding that preserving the judiciary's role requires more than criticism, it requires respect and support for its constitutional mandate. Her later speeches often acknowledged the importance of balancing accountability with the preservation of judicial independence. Judge Chen's career took on a broader dimension beyond the bench. He became a sought-after speaker and mentor, traveling to colleges, civic groups, and even international forums to share his vision of justice and democracy. His calm demeanor and principled stand on live TV had turned him into a symbol of integrity, showing that even in a fractured political landscape, civility and reason could prevail. Cultural commentators noted that the debate had become emblematic of a potential turning point, a reminder that democracy's survival depends not only on institutions but on the willingness of individuals to defend them through respectful discourse. The Chen Bondi exchange was invoked repeatedly as evidence that substantive dialogue, grounded in truth and mutual respect, could break through cynicism and polarization. In the years that followed, the legacy of that moment was celebrated annually in legal and civic circles, inspiring awards, scholarships, and public service campaigns dedicated to fostering the values Chen championed. It stood as a beacon of hope that, despite the turbulence of the times, the spirit of democratic debate and the rule of law could endure and even thrive. Years after that unforgettable televised encounter, both Judge Edward Chen and Pam Bondi found their personal and professional lives deeply influenced by the moment that had captured the nation's attention. The debate became more than a media highlight, it was a turning point in their own narratives, and a reflection of the evolving political culture around them. For Judge Chen, the experience reaffirmed his commitment to the principles of judicial independence and the rule of law. He increasingly viewed his role not just as an arbiter of legal disputes, but as a guardian of democratic norms. Inspired by the response to his live TV remarks, Chen devoted significant energy to civic education initiatives, believing that a well-informed public was the best defense against political manipulation and erosion of rights. Chen's work took him beyond the courtroom and lecture halls. He collaborated with bipartisan commissions seeking to reform judicial selection processes, aiming to reduce partisanship and increase transparency. His efforts earned him respect across ideological divides, and he became a mentor to young judges and lawyers who saw in him a model of integrity and courage. Despite the demands of his expanding public role, Chen remained humble. The judiciary's power lies not in loud pronouncements or political pressure, he often reminded audiences, but in its quiet dedication to fairness, even when it's unpopular. His legacy became intertwined with a broader movement to restore faith in institutions that many felt were under siege. Pam Bondi's journey was more complex. The heated exchange had exposed the limits of aggressive rhetoric in a media environment increasingly fatigued by division. While she maintained her core political convictions, Bondi began to embrace a more nuanced approach to public discourse. She frequently spoke about the importance of balancing critique with respect for the essential roles institutions play in democracy. In interviews and opinion pieces, Bondi acknowledged the wisdom in Chen's arguments, noting that robust democracy depends on an independent judiciary that can check power without fear or favor. This evolution in her public stance didn't come without controversy among her base, but it signaled a willingness to engage in more constructive conversations about governance. Politically, the Chen Bondi moment catalyzed shifts in how politicians approached debates and accountability. Campaigns and debates across the country began incorporating calls for civility and institutional respect, reflecting a growing voter demand for leaders who could bridge divides without sacrificing principle. Analysts noted that while polarization remained a defining feature of American politics, there was an undercurrent of hope for more substantive and less toxic engagement. Media outlets, too, were affected. News programs that had long capitalized on conflict and spectacle faced pressure to elevate discourse. Some networks launched initiatives focused on fact-based reporting and constructive dialogue, inspired by the positive reaction to Chen's reasoned and respectful rebuttal. In civil society, the moment fueled new collaborations between legal experts, educators, and activists seeking to promote judicial literacy and civic engagement. Programs teaching the public about the separation of powers, judicial ethics, and the importance of constitutional safeguards gained traction, helping to build a more informed electorate. The cultural resonance of the debate extended into popular culture as well. Documentaries, podcasts, and books explored the event as a case study in leadership, ethics, and democracy. For many, the Chen Bondi exchange was a reminder that even amidst chaos, moments of clarity and integrity could inspire lasting change. As the nation grappled with ongoing challenges, political, social, and economic, the legacy of Judge Chen's epic comeback served as a guiding light. It underscored the enduring truth that democracy thrives not on division and distrust, but on mutual respect, thoughtful dialogue, and an unwavering commitment to justice. As the years unfolded, the reverberations of Judge Edward Chen's legendary live TV comeback to Pam Bondi became woven into the very fabric of American political and civic life. The moment was no longer just a viral exchange, it was a symbol, a testament to the enduring strength of democracy when truth and respect prevail over division and noise. In the halls of government, in classrooms, and within communities, the lessons from that debate continued to inspire new generations. The idea that the judiciary must stand as an impartial guardian of the Constitution became a rallying cry for citizens and leaders alike, reminding everyone that the health of a democracy depends on the courage to uphold its principles, even in difficult times. Judge Chen's influence extended far beyond his rulings and public appearances. His mentorship helped cultivate a cadre of legal professionals dedicated to fairness and integrity. His speaking engagement sparked dialogue about the responsibilities of both officials and the public in sustaining democratic institutions. To many, Chen became more than a judge, he was a moral compass in a turbulent era. Pam Bondi's transformation, from a fierce critic to a more reflective advocate for balanced accountability, mirrored a broader political awakening. Her willingness to acknowledge the vital role of the judiciary, while continuing to champion her values, demonstrated that even entrenched political figures could evolve in pursuit of a greater good. This nuanced stance encouraged more honest, less divisive political discourse. The media landscape, too, benefited from the ripples of that night. Journalists and commentators who once prioritized spectacle began emphasizing substance. Shows devoted to civics, ethics, and constitutional law flourished. Public demand for credible, respectful political coverage shifted the way news was presented and consumed. More importantly, ordinary citizens embraced their role as stewards of democracy. Voter engagement increased, fueled by civic education efforts inspired by the debate's message. Town halls, community forums, and online platforms buzzed with discussions not only about policies but about the foundational values that bind the nation together. The Chen Bondi exchange remained a vivid example of how respectful discourse and principled leadership could rise above the cacophony of political conflict. It proved that even in an era marked by polarization, it was possible to find common ground through honesty, respect, and a shared commitment to justice. As America faced new challenges, from social upheaval to technological disruption, the legacy of that debate served as a beacon of hope. It reminded the nation that democracy is not a given, it is a continuous project requiring vigilance, courage, and empathy. In the final analysis, Judge Edward Chen's epic comeback was more than a moment of triumph, it was a call to action. It urged all Americans, leaders and citizens alike, to engage with one another not as adversaries, but as partners in the ongoing work of building a fairer, more just society. And so, the story ended not with finality, but with possibility, an open invitation to carry forward the spirit of reasoned debate, institutional respect, and unwavering dedication to the rule of law. The future of democracy depended on it,